Hello ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Vonbeardingham and this is 5 tips for singing in a studio. The point of this video isn't one of these information about what microphones to use, positioning, vocal technique, etc, etc. There are a million videos out there you can watch and would probably do a lot better job than I can. This video is mainly for people who may be singing in the studio for the first time, people who are a little bit less experienced. The idea behind this is to try and give some tips and advice that will make you feel more comfortable in a studio environment, so that when you give your performance, you're more likely to give a better quality performance, hopefully that you'll be happy with. So let's crack on. So we're going to start with tip number 1, knowing your voice. You could probably just take this tip and not watch the rest of this entire video. This is the most, to me, important advice I can give. Now, I've encountered a lot of singers who've come and recorded with me, for example, or I've seen in recording in other studios. They go into the studio environment, they put the headphones on, they're in a room, perhaps something like this. They'll hear their voice for the first time and be like, oh God, this is disgusting. Now, why would that be? Probably because they have never heard themselves recorded before, or even through just a microphone. There is a problem with this. If you are going in using an instrument to deliver hopefully a breathtaking performance that will last for eons in the annals of music, if you don't like how you sound, you're screwed, basically. So what I advise to anybody who is going to record in a studio or anything, pre-prepare. And by that, not only pre-prepare the music you are going to be singing, knowing the lyrics off by heart, I'll come to all that in a little while. This is a case of getting to know your own voice and what it can do. If you've never heard your own voice before, you are at the worst possible disadvantage. Because using your voice is like using a lover's body. All voices are different, all lovers are different. You want to use the lover or the voice in many different ways. See what works, see what doesn't work, see what gets the best results, see what's really enjoyable, see what delivers for you. So the voice is like a lover. Now, if you don't use it frequently, or you don't really get to the nitty-gritty of what makes it work and what you can produce with it, you are not going to even touch on the possibilities that you can deliver. And if you've never ever recorded yourself, how are you going to know what you sound like? This is a massive problem for a lot of people when it comes to singing. For me, I do a lot of home recording. So obviously this is a green screen, this is all pretend. My studio is fairly small, fairly compact, but the great thing is I can record from home. And that way I can do take after take after take till I'm happy with it. Now a lot of people might just record and be, yeah, that'll do, that's done. What's the point? If it's not exactly how you want it or the best performance you can deliver, you may as well just give up. So the point is, get equipment that means that you can record yourself. Now people say, oh, recording equipment is so expensive. No, it's not. You can get a small home setup that will allow you just to record yourself and hear what you sound like. Because once you do that, you can start then listening back over it and going, okay, I like what I did there. I don't like what I'm doing there. How can I change this? How can I manipulate my voice to do something else? You can try different vocal styles, play around with your range, play around with different inflections, different tones. There's so many things that you can do, but you need to be able to hear what you're singing to do it. And if you haven't got that ability, you are never going to get a true representation of what you sound like. You could get something simple like just a small cheap mixing desk, a microphone, and then some cables that you can plug an iPod or an iPad or your phone into for your music. And then you can just record onto anything that's got a line out. It could be your computer. It can also be an iPad. I'm not going to go into all the different possible setups there are for doing home recording because there are hundreds. There's brilliant videos on YouTube. Look them up. Go and have a nosy around, see what's out there. So that is my first really, really important tip. Get some equipment that means that you can hear yourself and you can record yourself. Because without that, basically you're flying blind. You've got no point of reference and you've got nothing to listen back to and think, I like that. I don't like that. I can improve on this. This sounds god awful. How can I make this better? So from that point, when you go into a studio, if you already know what your voice sounds like, you've already played around with it and tried out different tones, and hopefully you've got a lot more control over a studio recording situation, you're going to feel much more comfortable when you're put in front of a proper microphone and some stranger is sitting there recording you in the background. You're not going to have that initial, oh God, I really don't like this. I feel really uncomfortable. Oh, this bit sounded shit. This bit sounded... Otherwise, that will just destroy your confidence. And singing is all about confidence in what you can deliver. One additional note on this subject. When I talk about pre-preparation, I'm not just talking about the recording of the voice, I'm also talking about pre-preparing the music and the lyrics that you are going to sing. Learn all the lyrics off by heart. Don't go in having to try and read lyrics. Because what will happen is you'll be focusing on the lyrics, you won't be focusing as much on your vocal delivery, and the performance will suffer. And you're paying for this shit. You want to make sure that what you're delivering comes out well and preferably quick, because the longer you take, the more it's going to cost. So if you know your lyrics, you haven't got to worry about those. And also if you've practiced your vocals, you know how the song goes, and all you're aiming for is the best take rather than did I get the words right. So that's what we're aiming for. I've delivered, say, 3 decent vocal takes. Which one's the best? Not I've come in, I've laid down 10 vocal takes, some of which the words are wrong, some of which the melody lines have gone squiffy. That's not what we want. Tip 2, being comfortable and happy with the sound in your headphones. So we're in the studio, we've put our cans on, and the engineer has got you a rough level, and you try singing along, and you're like, oh, this doesn't quite sound right, I'm not quite comfortable. Some people will just sit there and put up with it and try and make the best of it. No, 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 I tell thee. That is the worst thing you can do. You want the sound in here to be the most comfortable and balanced that you can have for singing. Now, there's multiple ways that you can do this. If a decent studio engineer will listen to you and will try and accommodate you to make you feel happy. That's not you being a princess or a prima donna. That is you being comfortable, trying to deliver the best you can. Some guitarists are like that. If they haven't got a decent guitar sound, it affects their playing. A crap guitar tone will make a player play differently. The same as not having a decent sound in your headphones will make you sing differently. Now, I've talked about compression and reverb in other videos I've done. I find compression and reverb absolutely essential when it comes to tracking vocals. Now, I don't mean recording through a compressor and with reverb into the studio, because what happens is then you've got a vocal recording that's already pre-compressed and reverbed and you can't do anything with it. I'm talking about just having it on the foldback just for you to sing to. Because what it does, it gives it the atmosphere, and also the compression will bring out a lot of the tones in your voice. So by doing that, it means you can really listen to what your voice is doing, and again, deliver a much better performance. For example, at the moment, if I was singing here, I've got no reverb. Now, I've got compression on here. That's why you can hear my voice is, even though I'm just at talking volume, the level is quite high, and you can hear everything that's going on if I make little noises. You can hear everything that's going on. If I take that compression off, so I'll just flick it off on, I've got my EQ set here. So if I go to compression, right, I'm going to turn the compression off, and now it goes that quiet. Now I can actually hear my own voice higher than what I can in here. So for singing, that's no good, especially if you've got all track, blaring away in here. And if you're singing something really, really gentle that's got a lot of expression, you're going to be trying to fight over all that track in there to be able to hear your voice. And that's no good, because again, that'll affect your performance. So by adding compression, there we go, I can hear myself. I can manipulate my voice in whatever way I wish. And doing voiceover work and things like that, if you can't hear that timbre in your voice, and your acting ability isn't going to cut through as well. So I'm going to show you a little demonstration of what it sounds like when I've got compression and a bit of reverb. So I'm going to bring the reverb up a touch. There we go. So a bit of reverb. Sounds okay. I'm going to sing a little bit from Phantom of the Opera, and I'm going to show you the difference between how much you can hear of the qualities in your voice with compression compared to without. So first of all, we should do it without. Night time sharpens, heightens its sensation. Darkness stirs and wakes imagination. Silently the senses abandon their defenses. Alright, so that was without reverb and without compression. I didn't feel comfortable at all because I couldn't really hear myself that well. I could just about hear my voice as I'm talking to you now, but I couldn't hear it in here, which is where it's important. And for singing something like this, you want to be able to hear all the inflections that are going on. So we're going to try again, but this time I'm going to add some reverb, about there, and now I've got my compression back on. So let's take it from the start, and hopefully I'll do a better job this time. Night time sharpens, heightens each sensation. Darkness stirs and wakes imagination. Silently the senses abandon their defenses. Well, that was a very amateurish rendition of Music of the Night. If that was me, I would have done a lot more practice with this, and I would have done multiple takes until I was very happy. But hopefully you can hear the difference between the two. With the second one, with the compression and the reverb, I felt I could give more performance and put more acting into the sound of my voice than without. Because without, I was concentrating far too much on trying to just hear even if my melody was in tune. While with the second, with the compression and the reverb, I could hear it a lot more clearly. It sounded a lot more pleasant to me, so therefore I had more to work with. So that is why it is really important to get a decent sound in your foldback so that you can deliver a really good vocal performance. Tip 3. Warming up using nice, easy songs. When you get into a new studio, I find it's a really good idea to just get the sound guy, the studio engineer, just to chuck on a couple of easy songs that you can sing like no problem whatsoever. You can get comfortable, you can feel everything out, and you can sort of experience what it feels like to be in this new environment without any pressure. Make sure the songs are nice and easy, nothing that's going to push your voice too much, because you don't want to go in, blow your voice out on a couple of songs just to try and show off, and then you're screwed for the rest of the recording session. So that is my tip 3. A couple of nice, easy songs just to get familiar with the environment you're working in. Tip number 4, use your body to express your emotion for a better performance. I do this a lot, and without it I feel kind of naked if I can't use my hands moving around doing various silly gestures. Mariah Carey, whether it's lots of that, whether it's Freddie Mercury, anything like that helps push your performance, do it, no matter how stupid you think you look. If you're with me, for some reason, I do this weird kind of... I don't know why, but I feel that when I'm trying to swell my vocals, I will do a... I will bring the hand forward. if I'm trying to push for a high note, I might raise my hand up. I'm like, yeah! Anything like that helps the acting in the performance. Because if you're going to just sit there, all closed off, singing a tune and not really giving it much, you are going to hear it 500% on the recording. I know for me personally, when I sing and record vocals in a studio, because I don't have a naturally gravelly voice, if I'm singing anything heavy rock or metal, I have to push my voice so hard to make it sound like it's got substance on the recording. Now, so it's tough enough for me if I don't use my body and my hands and my gestures to really force that point across. It's just going to sound even more lackluster. I've had to do recordings in some studios. We were doing a version of Pink Floyd's The Wall, and I had to try and do a choir of male vocals, one of which sounding like a bunch of young English schoolboys. And they wanted different styles. So some were kind of, we don't need no education. Some were real stroppy. And I had to stand there kind of almost stamping my feet like, we don't need no, giving it all that. And it helps the performance. It's like method singing. You are getting into a frame of mind where you want to deliver a certain emotion. Getting that emotion across is absolutely key to a good recording. So use whatever you have on your body. God, I mean, if you want to strip naked and stand there majestically in the buff in the vocal booth, go for it. Why the hell not? If nakedness helps you deliver that vocal recording, then get naked, goddammit. Tip number 5, splitting the songs into appropriate parts. Real key for singing any song that's got lots of dynamics. If it's just metal stuff and you're going to be using the same tonality all the time, it's not too much of an issue. But if your song requires a lot of, real low sensual parts, and then at some point you're going to break out into these heavy vocals or real high vocals that are really strong, number one, your sound engineer is going to probably advise this anyway, because if you're going to be doing lots of soft stuff, they'll crank the gain up and you'll be using different tonalities in your voice and different volumes. So they're not going to want to crank the gain up and you be singing something soft and sensual, and then the next minute you're like, bah! You're just going to redline all the vocals and it's going to sound like shit. So also, if you go into a studio first thing in the morning and you find that your voice is a little bit tired, you might find it's got a little bit more lower range. It may sound a bit deeper. It may have a bit more of a husky quality to it. If you know your voice and what it tends to be like during different sessions of recording, use that to your advantage. So I think, right, okay, my voice is tired this morning, but yeah, I've got a nice deep, bit more boom and depth in my voice. So have we got any parts that we can do that sound like that? Go in and make the most of it. If as you warm up, then after you've done those parts, you start to feel that your voice is more capable of hitting higher notes and sounds fuller, then do those parts. You can generally tailor it to sort of what suits your voice. Otherwise, you might end up going back on yourself and then having to re-record stuff, because now you find that your voice, now it's warmed up, sounds different. You might have done a couple of vocal takes, and instead of choosing the first one, you may then come back to that part another time and be like, my voice sounds completely different now. Why couldn't it have sounded like this earlier? So this also reflects back to point number 1, knowing your voice. If you know when your optimum performance is going to appear in your singing your song, wait till that time comes up to then use that. Don't make do just with what your voice happens to be like at the time. There's sometimes you might go into the studio and your voice feels absolutely shot to pieces. Just use that to your advantage in whatever parts of your music requires it. And then you can obviously use it if your voice feels in better condition and you're able to sing and say maybe much higher, then do your high stuff. But choose wisely where you use your voice and at what parts you use it in the recording. Bonus tip: listening to other people when it comes to our voice. It's very difficult to take criticism sometimes, and if people criticize your voice, that's a very, very personal thing. if they say your voice isn't powerful enough, or that your voice might have a tonality that they don't like, or in the recording session that you didn't deliver what you were hoping. Suck it all up, take it on board as criticism, because the great thing about a human voice, and the same thing about any instrument, you can work with it and you can improve it. My voice, what it sounded like, if you ever hear early recordings of when I first joined the band, I've been with them for nearly 15 years now. What my voice sounded like back then compared to what I can do with it now are so vastly different. But that was mainly because of my own self-criticisms. I am the most anal human being when it comes to my own voice and getting a performance that I'm happy with and that I think other people will be happy with. I have done sometimes, especially on if it's stuff that requires a lot of expression and sensuality, I have done sometimes 50 or 60 vocal takes because I have sat there and listened. I don't like that inflection on that note, or the melody was slightly off there, or I didn't put the right amount of force in at this point. I've driven myself nuts trying to get what I wanted. But in the end, it worked out. So, and having other people be honest with you about what you're recording will really help. Because if you're recording and you're like, yeah, that sounds okay, and everyone's like, yeah, that's great. How are you going to learn from that? You need other people's input. And like I say, we can all learn and we can all improve. So take what others say on board, especially if you're working in a studio environment. If you watch some of the really, really good singers and you've got a really good studio engineer who'll be like, okay, I really like that, but can you give it a little bit more on this part, and maybe pull back a bit on here, use a bit more emotion in this part, follow direction as well. Because a lot of the time, people who are, say, listening in the main studio and they're listening to what you're delivering, they have got a much better representation of how it's sounding. And if you've got, say, 5 people who are listening, like, I think it needs a bit more of this, try a bit of this, take it on board. Because this is going to be, either whether it's just recording covers, whether it's the music you've strived so hard to push, this is what you're going to be delivering to the general public, and you want to be proud of it. So swallow your ego a little bit. I mean, a lot of singers do have egos. That's kind of what makes them great singers. But when it comes to the studio, really listen to what other people have to say and take it on board and try out different things and suggestions, because you never know, it may lead to the best vocal take performance of your life. Right, so that's my 5+1 bonus tip. I do apologise if it's a bit rambly, but I don't tend to pre-plan these things. I tend to just speak as it comes to mind and follow the various train of thoughts. So I hope this is of help to various people. If you've got any questions, by all means do send me a message or put a comment. If you put a harsh comment, I really don't care. But nice ones are much more appreciated. So anything I can help with, or any information I can give you, I will do my best to help you. So from me, myself and I, Mr. Mike Vonbeardingham, take care and happy singing.